the story of Willow and Lilith. This story starts before the time of the actual game that we played, as we both played this game before, me and my friend. The concept started that his original character, which was already named Lilith, went out and captured the Elden Ring and swore it to Ranni the Witch, becoming her consort. And that version of Lilith became almost all-powerful, able to input their influence into other worlds and realms. The influence reached far, including into these lands between, where our story starts. Willow was over there. She had just woken up in a strange world to fight in an unknowing battle yet to come. Now, she came here with a plan. She does not now remember the plan, as she was defeated on that small, isolated island, and was cast away. She woke up here, in the stranded graveyard, without any memory of who she actually was. She didn't know who she was, or where she was, or what she was even supposed to do. All she knew is that she had to leave the dark. She made her way to the first steps, where she met the new iteration of Lilith, who the old one was already putting her influence upon. The influence was basically to do as the previous had done. Basically, go to Ranni, claim the Elden Ring, and become a consort as the first one had. However, she met Willow. The two of them advanced together to the Church of Ella, or Aya, whatever you choose to say to pronounce it. I don't care. They both arrived here after defeating the great guardian of the plains, the Tree Sentinel. Upon reaching the church, Lilith conversed with Santa. You already know, I believe his name is Elijah or something. I don't remember his real name. During their conversation, Willow, in a near blind rage, just attacked and murdered the man. After that, Willow and Lilith split paths, with Lilith thinking the much weaker at that moment Willow was just a dangerous handicap, which at the time would be true. So Willow and Lilith split ways after the church. On their journeys, Lilith continued northbound, arriving up here, and starting a battle with Margit. However, Willow would venture far out, all the way to the bestial sanctuary, on the way getting attacked by dogs and losing her eye. Among that journey, she found an amazing weapon, the Godskin Peeler, I believe. Or God Greatsword. It's a giant, colossal greatsword that shoots black flame. Very cool sword. Recommended. Anyway, she got that, she leveled up, she murdered many things throughout this area before sweeping back into this section. Upon returning, however, she would meet Lilith again here and help her slay a dragon. After the defeat, Lilith would realize that Willow, the very weak and fragile creature that she found before, was now much stronger, almost stronger than she was at the time. and in a moment of brilliant and slightly manipulative thinking, chose to use Willow as a tool. Basically, a human shield that she would throw at Margit. This plan would succeed, and Margit, the Fell Omen, dies. Or is defeated. As we know, Margit is actually Morgoth, and that's just an image of him. So, Willow and Lilith managed to quite easily kill Margit, and despite Willow wishing to just march straight through the front gate all the way through, Lilith would drag her around the outside. But before that, they went to the Stormhill shack and found a man, which Willow killed before Lilith really even got a chance to see what he was doing, and stole his armor, the Beast Champion. Then, after that, they finished making their way through the rest of Stormvale Castle, which they reached eventually Godric. It took a little bit of time and a good deal of effort, as Willow had killed the help in the previous area, which is a woman who can help you out in the boss fight. Willow killed her, and that left Lilith and Willow slightly less armed than they were hoping to be going into this fight. But fight they did, and fight they won. Killing Godric, the two of them advanced. Now here, after this, the influence on Lilith took hold again, and she advanced not to the great scholars, not the queen or the library of Rael Lucaria. She advanced northward to Rani's Rise and the palace. However, Willow chose to continue her path, entering into the debate parlor and going up to defeat Renala. However, by the time she had reached Renala, Lilith had returned after convening with Rani, and through sheer force of will and manipulation of claiming friendship, Willow spared Renala. Together, Willow and Lilith would then travel into the Altus Plateau, with Lilith now having ulterior motives to whatever she had in store. And do mind, some of the Sites of Grace that I claim to have, I don't have here currently because this isn't the actual Willow character. I had to restart because that was on PlayStation 4 version, apparently. Even though these ones were PlayStation 4. It's weird. I just kind of ignore it. Anyway. They traveled into the Altus Plateau. And together they killed just about everything. Lilith seeing Willow as a way to just, gain more power. Basically sicking her on anything she found like a dog. Killing things from the Godskin Noble, the creatures all throughout the lands, the knife, Eleonora, even the Draconic Tree Sentinel. Now, at this point, they would split paths again, as they would have to return all the way back to the Stormhill Shack, as Lilith had decided to come back here and defeat Radon, which was easy enough with Willow's support, and afterwards they got what they needed, went back to the shack to rest. But the old Lilith, still casting her influence, seemed to make a misstep. Instead of invading Lilith's dreams, she invaded Willow's, who she decided was a bit of a threat to her influence, as the current Lilith was starting to actually see Willow as a possible friend. So, upon the battle in Willow's mind, she died many times, and getting very few, very small victories, normally in single steps back. Despite this, eventually, Willow's mind did not fully break or shatter. She woke up and attacked Lilith. Lilith did not understand why Willow had attacked her so suddenly, and partway through the fight, after Willow got a good hit, a lucky hit, and dropped Lilith to the floor, she fled into the darkness and was not seen for a long time after. In this time, Willow descended into the underground. Where she found the Forsaken Depths, the Cathedral of the Forsaken, and then she happened upon the Frenzied Flame. Willow, on her mission, she had decided that she was here to put peace to the lands between. To do that, she would have to find a way to truly end life in the lands, as the broken Elden Ring allowed ghosts, phantoms, and spirits to roam restlessly throughout everything. She was drawn further and further into the heart of darkness until she found the Frenzied Flame. She found the Frenzied Flame and was chosen to be its host. Upon this, she lost even more fragments of her mind, practically becoming a monster in her own right. After she finally ascended, after going deeper underground, eventually Willow and Lilith would meet again. This time in the mountaintops of the giants. More specifically, here, at the freezing lake, where Lilith and Willow would find a arboreal dragon, a beast whose breath froze the very air around them. It was here that Lilith had grown stronger. The abandonment of Willow kind of incentivized her to strengthen her own abilities. She had realized how much of a crutch she used Willow as, and therefore she had gotten much stronger, relying more heavily on the other Lilith's will, doing more of what she told. Eventually, they met and they slew the dragon, and for a short time, they regained some sort of commonality. However, while on their way to find the fire giant, Lilith saw Willow without her clothes on. And what she saw were the burns and marks of the Frenzied Flame that had infected her. Her eyes glowing, not just a sign of power anymore, but a sign of something much worse, a greater force using her as a vessel. Despite the irony of the same thing happening with Lilith herself. They split up and fought the fire giant. In their own worlds, mind you. Or, as it was the same world, it's considered that they both fought variations of it, as their worlds desynchronized from each other. They both killed the fire giant and reached the forge and ascended to the Dragonton. However, where Lilith cast away Melina, her trusted helper, and maiden, who helped her from the start, Willow cast herself into the fire, allowing the flames to overtake her as the frenzied grew stronger and stronger. Once they both reached the crumbling Farum Azula, They took different paths, and eventually they both fought Malekith. However, after defeating Malekith, they both scoured the lands between doing other things. Lilith doing tasks for Ranni, traveling deep underground to gather things in the... which one was it? In Nokron. She traveled within Nokron to basically gather things. And then even after that, she traveled into the Grand Cloister, where she fell an evil shadow which had been stalking Ranni. And then eventually even fighting that one big boss. Yeah. The big giant skull that shoots the blue and uses gravity magic. She fought him and won, gaining Mistress Ranni's favor, and then arriving in the village, arriving at the Cathedral of Manus Celis, where she found Mistress Ranni and married her. During those times, Willow, who was starting to grow pained with the power of the frenzied flame just burning in her day and night, traveled north. She eventually found out that in the Castle Sol, there was a man who was guarding a secret medallion. She had already found one in the village of the Albinurics, which was given to her before. Well, given is a strong word. She found and murdered a man and took half of a seal that was on him. Using a portal in Castle Sol, she found herself in the consecrated snowfield. Well, not really a portal, She found it, she went here, came over here. In the consecrated snowfield, she traveled around, did a few things. She killed a big dragon over here, I think another one over here. She visited a small church, the Apostate Derelict. Then she found the liturgical town Ordina, where she lit the 4 belfries and then ascended to the Heilig Tree. Now, along this way, she had come across a person who the only reason she let live was the fact that Lilith at the time had been with her and told her to not harm this woman. This woman was, in fact, everyone's favorite girl. Yes. During their journey, they kind of marched north, with Willow being the main source of help, despite Lilith giving all the orders to help. Eventually, Willow found her again in the Heilig Tree. Eventually, after the prayer room, she descended into the drainage tunnel, where she defended what she considered the closest thing to a friend. Despite her help, the last person she thought she could call a friend, besides Lilith, who she was now afraid to even see after her last mistake, died, granting her the unalloyed gold needle. Willow marched into the roots and fell Melania. Using Melena's needle, she purified it, and eventually returning here with a strange sense of dread coming from the frenzied flame, she ventured into the center of the crumbling farm, to Placidusax, and fell the Dragon Lord, and becoming immune, cleansing herself of the frenzied flame. After that, she returned to the Elden throne, seeking to take the throne after finally understanding that whatever outside force was driving Lilith, as she had been watching her this whole time, trying to think of a way to save their friendship that had already burned long before. She thought of claiming the Elden throne for herself, taking the ring, taking the Great Rune, and destroying it or fixing it to where she could not take it. She could not bear to do this. With the power and the ambition of the frenzied flame gone from her, she fled the lands between entirely. Eventually stumbling across the Shadow Realm, where she ventured around aimlessly for a long time, no longer murdering people en masse, though murdering plenty of foul beasts and monsters. Eventually, however, Lilith would return. They had a grand battle outside the gravesite plains, where the battle was quite grand. It was quite close as well, as Lilith made many great mistakes, and Willow was able to capitalize on those mistakes, fighting back using the Blade of Death. She almost took down Lilith, which, even though she was prepared to kill, she did not believe she had it in her to kill one she held so dear and called friend so long ago. However, those thoughts overtook her in a moment of weakness, and Lilith defeated her. Lying on the ground, awaiting death from someone who she knew had hunted her, something changed, however. The stern and prepared look of Lilith slowly faded to a warm smile as she helped her friend back up, claiming that it had been a long time. It seems that Lilith, too, had cast away the influence of a greater being that had been attached to her for so long, just as Willow had. The two of them, united, marched forth into a new lands. Not knowing what lay in store for them, they advanced nonetheless. This was the story of Willow and Lilith, and their journey still ongoing in the lands between.